welcome everybody back to Humanize IT. We've got Skip Ziegler here again, and today, some of you might remember a TV show from like it was the 90s. You can't do that on TV. Is that the 80s maybe? I don't know. It's all getting mixed up these days. But it's like lately I've heard a lot of objections in tech when I talk to MSPs and I talk to IT consultants like, well, that's just not what I do.
Oh,
AI
yeah.
is just not something we do. It's not a product we offer. And I remember like in the late 90s, you've heard me tell this story many times. There was nothing we didn't do, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like, hey, I need to do this website thing. Well, let me go figure out HTML.
Uh-huh.
Go to the library and you got a book, or you went to the local bookstore and you bought a book on HTML, or Cold Fusion, or whatever it was you're using at the time. And you just figured it out. Like, hey, they got these animations that go across the screen. How do you do that? Let me figure it out. And that was just who we were. If it had anything to do with digital information, that's why we were information technology.
Yep.
That's who we were. And somehow along the way, we lost our way. We became multi-service providers, which was also generic. But then you became all about like hardware, software, speeds, closing tickets faster. And like, what happened to being inventive? What happened to like, I do that. Yes. Oh, you need help with Spotify streaming throughout your entire organization? You know what? Let me help you figure that out.
And we're ideally suited for it. I used to tell prospects every once in a while I'd get drug out on the sales calls, and we were shifting from the break fix, hourly rate model into a structured managed service business model. And for some of our customers, they just really having a hard time understanding that, how it was going to work out. And I got to where I explained, I was like, look, if it's got a blinky light on it, we're going to help you take care of it. And I just boiled it down. Look, we're going to help you take care of your tech. Now, that was great and all. And I do kind of see where some people go with this. Technology is pervasive, and you can get in situations where you're spending hours and hours of time trying to figure something out that's not part of your standards. That's why you need to have a stack. Right? I mean, there are ways that we can get there, but at the core, yeah, we're the techie guys. We take care of the blinky lights. That's at a very basis, that's who we are.
Well, and I think that's part of like the podcast we had, is hypocrisy a good thing?
Mm-hmm.
Is that, yes, like sometimes you're going to say, I don't really do that, but then it's going to change. As of the recording of this email, we released our email dispatch. And it's something we said we would never do, because it took away from the value add conversations. But then eventually I was like, you know what, that is something we should do. It is going to help have better conversations. And so now it's like, how many things do you as an MSP say, well, we really don't do that? Well, maybe there is a tech solution now. Maybe you didn't do fleet management for trucking companies before because it was all done via spreadsheet and you stopped at the spreadsheet. Well, nowadays there's GPS trackers, there's entire inventory systems, so you can tell which tool is at which site. You've got a lot of different things you can do in technology that now is your problem. Like that. So tech is so pervasive now that there's very little things that aren't attached to your world. So
Yes.
The Internet of Things is now the term that we've been using for a decade now to talk about our devices, because it's not just laptops and PCs anymore. It's freaking everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've got light switches in my house that have more computing horsepower than my devices did in the early 90s.
Oh, yeah.
To turn my fireplace on, I can just tell Alexa to turn it on. And that's weird to me. Like, how's a light switch an IT thing? And so people tell me like, oh, we don't do that. That's not what we do. Like, you need to check your biases, people, because like Skip's got about 1,000 stories here of all things like, we don't do that.
Yeah.
Yes, you do now.
Yep. Well, and it's not just we don't do that. My suggestion on that is you probably should be doing that, and there's a gradient to that. You should be involved with that. And so I've got a really great example. This is on our default template for our architecture report. And in that, we go through, and there's a little section there on social media, all right? And there's some standard questions about, hey, does your presence on all the social platform look the way it's supposed to? Do you have your official logos, your official colors? Do you have the proper admin rights for those? Do you have, the backup accounts? Are you using company email addresses and not somebody's Gmail? All just really basic stuff, right? And we hit that, and when we're working with members, like, oh, we don't do that. I mean, we let our clients do that. I'm like, yes, I know, but you need to be involved in this process. This is my messaging. You need to be involved in this process, because how many times can we think of a client that, yes, they had some employee that went out there and set up an Instagram page or something, but that employee just used their personal email address because it worked. And now the employee's gone and you have a company presence. It's grown. And now the organization is coming to you going, hey, how do I do this? How do I get there? Or maybe it was even a business email, but that employee's gone, the email address is gone. And they're like, we need to turn this email back on. Can we get those emails back? There's all these technical things that you get drug into because your client wasn't approaching it properly. So my answer to that is no, you might not want to do social media management, but you're involved. You're making sure somebody is doing social media management and they're doing it properly. So, we can't just throw up these flags and say, well, I don't do that. That's a big brick wall and I never look through that or look around that or anything. And I'm just not going to go there. Things change and we're going to miss out on a lot of those if we don't embrace those technologies.
Yeah. Be careful that you don't become a Luddite, people.
Yes.
And, for a long time, I was trying to explain to myself, like, hey, why are these people so resistant? It seems to be the same kind of people all the time. Like, they don't like EVs. EVs are the worst thing. And they're always finding everything wrong with an EV. And now, like, everybody's like, okay, well, EVs are kind of nice. And then, the same group of people are like, oh, well, this AI thing, they're all grumbling about it. I'm like, there's got to be a word for these people. I'm like, no, the word was invented 100 years ago. It was called Luddite. We just forgot. and this idea that people are resistant, don't be that. Now we as IT people are aging, like we're starting to mature in our fields. Like those of us who came out of the 90s and have been doing this our entire careers are hitting our 40s and our 50s. And we're starting to get more resistant to change. It's a mental thing. And it's like, okay, I don't do that. Like, check your bias again, fight your natural impulse to stay the same and be like, oh, yeah, maybe we should incorporate Spotify into our stack because our customers need this. Maybe we should incorporate, a new software that our customers really need to operate. Maybe we should help construction companies with fleet management and inventory tracking. Maybe that's something we should do as a service. And that's because you need to evolve. Imagine if 15 years ago you say, oh, we don't do the cloud. That's a software thing. Where would you be today?
Oh
my gosh. You'd be so far behind. And I'm willing to bet a lot of people said that. Like, no, we don't do virtualization. We don't do the cloud. That's an enterprise feature.
Yeah.
And
we're never going to put our data center out there. We're always going to have it right here where I can go and put my finger on the hard drive. Yes.
Hey, I remember, and then there are still people today like, oh, on-prem is far superior to cloud. I'm like, okay, you keep believing that. In the meantime, I'm looking for accountability here, and my on-prem is not getting that unless I spend $300,000.
That's it, exactly.
So, I built highly secure, and auditable data centers, and I guarantee you there are very few of you out there who can afford a fully audited secure data center. You'll just feel secure because it's on-prem, like, oh, no one's in here. It's because you don't know.
Yep.
You do not have time for all this. Now, if you have built a fully secure data center before and and it's been audited by very extreme entities, you know what I'm talking about, that this is hard to do. So a lot of us move to the cloud because 1, it's easier, and 2, it's more secure, and 3, we can audit. We can throw off audit processes on people. But that matured over time. But I still hear in the forums, on-prem is more secure. Like, no, it's not. Like, my house is not more secure than the Smithsonian. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This try as I might, it will never be more secure than the Smithsonian. And so if I really want my grandpa's great novel to be protected, I'm going to take it to Smithsonian, have it I'm put it on loan to Smithsonian so it's protected.
Yeah.
Anyways, but we don't do that in IT. We need to check, are we able to do this now? Is this something that's important? Is this something we should be tracking? Is this something like, are we now in the HVAC world? Because all the smart controls out there, those are, as we all know, egress points into our network. Okay, so now we need to incorporate those. We need to have technicians on staff that understand what those devices do. So now you have technicians that might be an HVAC person. So now you do HVAC. Why? Because you need to understand how this works so you can protect it. And then you have things like, helicopters, you have airplanes, you have cars. I remember in like 2004, I was asked to be the IT guy for the mobile command unit for the state. Giant $500,000, $750,000 RV, essentially. And they needed to figure out how to get PCs and stuff in there that would communicate. Guess who got to learn a lot about RVs, but already did know a lot about RVs because I was a gamer. But, I got to learn a lot about, incendiary toilets. I got to learn a lot about, how satellites worked, how these command units were going to get set up and how they would drop and be the center of activity and how to put laptops and incorporate them into a safe environment. Like, I had to become the expert. So what are things today that you say that's not what we do?
Yeah, and you really have to look and flip that into what can I do? And I think if you take that approach, you'll see a lot of opportunity. For me personally, back in my oil field days, when a wellhead explodes, all right, and you've got all this stuff coming out, it's not something a lot of people are hanging around, right? I mean, they clear the area, and the last thing people are doing is running around with laptops or something, right? It is a very messy, dangerous, hands-on situation. But I had an opportunity to get involved. Ours was a trailer. It was an emergency response trailer. It wasn't an RV, so probably not quite as nice as yours. But we hauled that out there, and we've got satellite communications, and we were able to get visuals. And this is a long time ago, but it was really cool then. And within a few hours, we had a live feed of this blowout in the divisional office where all the senior engineers that control this. And they were able to watch this and see things going on and provide input to the guys on the ground. It made a huge impact. But as a corporate guy at the time, I could have said, hey, I do all of our lease lines. I do all the routers, the switches, and the firewalls. That's all I do. That's just my little world. That's what I was hired to do. It's in my job description. Right? But I knew that there were so many more things out there. We invented ways at the time to get these links up and running and would sit around and go, I bet we could, do these different things here. My best one of all is when I called Cisco one time and said, hey, I can't get this wireless link to working. And I gave them all the parameters and it won't work that way. That's impossible. I was like, it's been working for the last 6 months. Your most recent iOS broke it. Help me roll it back because I've been making it work. That is a fundamental part of how we can help our clients. So maybe there's got to be some additional money there. Maybe we're going to have to scope some things out. That's fine. But we need to transition to I can do versus I can't do or I don't do.
Some of the best things I've done for clients are things that had never been done before, that people did not know how to do. Whether it was, for a photographer friend of mine, they could not sell on site. Why? Because there was no way to get pictures from the camera into the web-based suite they were using to sell things. I said, yes, there is. So we bought a bunch of cheap refurbished PCs that we could stack those, those Dell GX260s, I think they were. And they're about this big, like 2U.
Little small form factor, yeah.
Yeah, and we just stacked them and just hooked up monitors to them. And then I put a nice little switch on the back end, put it over to a main PC, which was hooked up to the camera. And every time she took a picture of a little girl in a tutu, it would go right to that computer. And I made a mapped drive for all the PCs on a gig network. Actually, was it a gig? Yeah, so it was a gig network. And those PCs were able to read, and they were able to sell before you left the door. So your kid's sitting there all dressed up, pretty, you're excited about the pictures.
Yeah.
You're going to buy 20% more, which I did. You can't do that in tech. There's no program for it. Of course, there wasn't a program for it. I just found a way to make it work. Today, like, how do I use AI in my business? That's just not what we do. Well, figure it out.
Yeah.
Which one's better, Claude or Perplexity for their solution? Is there a way for this AI to solve some major business problems for them? You know what? I don't know, but you're their best bet to figure this out.
Yeah.
And
are you waiting? Yeah. I mean, so are you waiting for everyone else to figure it out and then tell you what to do? You know,
Yeah.
You have a great opportunity here. AI is probably a fantastic example of pick a few clients, get involved with them, and develop something. And
AI
you may
audit.
struggle to put some dollar amounts to it right now, but as soon as you do figure something out, you're going to immediately be able to start making money. Whereas if you're waiting to see what the market does, then at the end of it, you're going to be trying to take a slice out of the pie that everyone else is already, mining and working on. So this is your opportunity to get in front of it all.
Free advice here, people. Like, if you want to incorporate AI as part of your stack, start doing it. Go and say, hey, for $1,500, I will come in and I will do an audit. My audit will consist of 4 interviews with key stakeholders to talk about your business workflows. I'll come back and identify areas where I think AI would be good and AI would not be a good fit. And all you got to know is things like Claude, Perplexity, ChatGPT 5, which is coming out, and be able to say, you know what, you could probably use Claude to save a lot of time on creating your sales pro formas or anything like that. We could probably save a lot of time and legal fees on helping do some of your HR documentation. Or hey, you're doing a SOC 2. There's a really great opportunity to use Claude to develop out some of your SOC 2 policies and save hours and hours of work. And just slide it across the table. Here's the things I think that are great opportunities. Your staff and your key stakeholders are going to have to figure the rest out. But I've identified the key areas for the growth. $1,500, 4 meetings, and then you walk out. If they want to continue having you as a consultant, say, hey, look, I'll continue to consult for $1,500 for a month and continue helping you guide this along and look at different ways to do this. You just made $1,500 just to consult. No extra expenses other than 4 hours of your time. That's it. And that is how we look at this. You got to say, I don't do that. You got to say, I can do that. I'm not an expert, but I'm as close as you're going to get to an expert right now.
Yep. And that might not scale across all of your clients. You might only have 1 or 2 that would be able to or have the desire to participate in that with you. That's fine, because that process that you go through is going to define a more scalable solution. And so the outcome of that is not only what you're able to provide those clients, it's not only the revenue that you generated, but you're also building the basis and the foundation for your next product, next year's push that you're able to scale and go to market with across all your clients. So these initial steps that so many MSPs take, and then so many other MSPs, the greater percentage are trying to follow behind. They're trying to just follow the leader. You can be the leader without having to, have millions of dollars of capital or risk everything on some, wild idea. You can be a leader in your marketplace with your staff and your team if you just simply shift into I can do that versus I don't do that. And you don't have to go nuts with it, but you're able to meet your clients where they need to be and find solutions. And that makes you a leader. You're leading your clients into better technology usage and more successful businesses. And the leaders make the majority of the money. So you need to be in that pack. And you can be in your own little leadership pack in your marketplace with your current team and clients. You just got to embrace that.
Yeah, I like the idea of leadership pack there. Like when you say we don't do that in tech, that might be your indicator that this is something you should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh,
Yep.
other MSPs aren't doing this. You just
Yes.
said it, right? You just said it.
Uh-huh.
Like, we don't do that in tech. No, what you just said was our market does not do this.
Mm-hmm.
You run your company. If you want to sell pink tutus and bananas, you can.
Yep.
There's nothing stopping you from having your company sell lollipops and funnel cakes, as well as doing IT servicing. Stop letting yourself be defined by the industry and the market. Start thinking, oh, wait, here's an opportunity to do more. I can use tech to solve this problem. And now everybody's going to have automated bidets.
Yeah.
That might be something. I was at my sister's house. I don't know if she listens to this podcast or not, but they had the fanciest darn toilet I've ever seen. This thing was smarter than me. Like it had a remote control, had like seated, the seat was warm, and had like an automatic sensor for when you were sitting. I mean, this thing,
Okay.
some engineer thought, hey, you know what we need to do is make a smart toilet. And I started thinking to myself while I was there, I'm like, I wonder if this would actually track how many gallons of water are being used.
Yeah.
That I would be on board with, because then I'd be like, ooh, my toilet's been running. I used 36 gallons of water today. I should probably go check that toilet before I end up getting robbed by the water company. But I thought it was hilarious. I mean, this thing was like a freaking spaceship. I almost did not feel worthy to use it. But what if somebody in the toilet industry said, we don't need to make smart toilets? I'm sure they've sold hundreds of thousands of this version of toilet, and people just love it. And it's the greatest thing ever. And that was an opportunity for them. What if people stopped and said, we just don't do that in our industry?
Uh-huh.
No, that is your answer. If you say, we don't do that in tech, you've now identified an opportunity.
Uh-huh.
Now you have to decide, is that opportunity in line with your vision? Adam and Skip said, we don't do emails to clients. That's not something we do. We had the capacity years ago. We were sending emails to account managers so they knew what was going on in the environment. And we said, we don't do emails to clients. We want you to call the client. We want you to talk to them. We are all about better conversations. And if we can do that, then we can facilitate that. If we give them an email, it'll stop the conversations. However, we've evolved beyond that. Now we're like, okay, we can push better conversations by giving the client really attractive emails that they'll read and then ask questions about.
Uh-huh.
So now it fits into our vision. So we identified an email, a digest, that is now part of our suite because it aligns with our vision. You may say, hey, we don't do cotton candy as an IT MSP or IT vendor. Like, what if your primary clientele was fairs and circuses and rodeos?
Yeah.
You might want to supply cotton candy machines because it's just a great revenue stream. And it's really easy to service because you're going out there and you're deploying wireless access points anyways. You might as well deploy a cotton candy machine.
Yep.
And it becomes a perk. This is how we grow as an industry. Things that we didn't think were possible. And you might find out there's a cotton candy machine that is a smart cotton candy machine. And you can talk about how many units it's pushing out, and you can map this and trend it in Power BI. It's up to you. And so you got to stop saying, we don't do that, and start saying, should we do that?
I think that's a good idea. If no one's doing it, that's a really good indicator that there's a demand for it.
Definitely.
So
all right, thanks, Skip.
Take a look at it.
Thanks for coming on board, Skip, today, and we'll see you all next week.
See ya.